Hey everybody, we're here at Quantum Leap Revisited.
It's true.
I don't know why that applause sounded kind of choppy, but I guess it's just a sound thing. In any case, we're here at Quantum Leap Revisited, where we're going to be going over the episode number 6 of the first season of the original classic Quantum Leap series. As usual, I have a great panel of people here. You know these people already because we do this now kind of on a weekly basis, and I'm really thankful for that. Really great group of guys. I'm just going to go one by one quickly, talk about them a little, and then we're going to pretty quickly jump into the episode. So we got Real Sean Krummel. He's an artist. He has his own sticker collection. The link is below. You can get his stickers. He's constantly making more, and they're great. Really great artist. He also has his own YouTube channel where he does retro comic reviews. He does a lot of artwork that he draws and things like that. And in addition, he also does live streaming about pop culture here and there, or on a weekly basis, actually. And I highly recommend that. Hey, Sean, how's it going?
Good. Happy to be back.
Cool. We got Ro from the Scarif Podcast, also known as the Scarif Podcast. Also, he's a founding member of the Red 5 Network. He is also, in addition, that's all kind of a side thing that he does. What he does kind of in the day-to-day is that he's actually a veteran broadcast news professional, has been working in that side of the industry for years, has a lot of knowledge also about equipment, cinematography equipment, technical stuff in shows and movies that we watch. Ro, how's it going?
It's going fantastic. It's great to be back with this fine cadre of gentlemen.
And we're really thrilled to have you back here as well. Next, we have Nicholas, the Back Yard Tardis. Nick, this one is usually long. Nick is the in his town. He's a minister at his local church. He also owns his own locksmithing business. He also has his own ranch that has goats there, and just a expert in sci-fi and great guy altogether. Nick, how's it going?
Yeah, consumer of podcasts. I'm doing good. I've had a fun day. Got to spend most of the day, as you put it, with the sheriff. We repoed what has to be the world's smallest little tractor. Because you walk behind it, but it had like a backhoe attachment. It had a rototiller attachment, a ditch. That was an interesting one, and well, you saw the picture of the other one.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I forgot. Stuff. I actually forgot in my intro to say that you also work with the local sheriff on special situations where he needs your assistance, and also the fire department. A lot of times it's weird repos, evictions, and just places they can't enter, sometimes really suspicious ones that they kind of need you to help them gain access to.
And right before we got on stream, I had just wrapped up making a key for an 07 Yamaha bike. So, all throughout the day, but I think mostly right now I'm just a salty Doctor Who fan.
Yeah, I think everybody's salty in the Doctor Who. Anybody who used to like Doctor Who. In any case, Nick also has 2 channels. He has his YouTube channel, the Back Yard Tardis, talks about science fiction and pop culture stuff. He has Adventures in Locksmithing, where he shares stories about different adventures that he has on the job. Next, we have Script Doctor. Script is veteran when it comes to screenwriting. He has his own Patreon that he teaches people, guides them when it comes to screenwriting, gives kind of tips and guidance. He also has his own YouTube channel, of course, where he's doing a lot of cool videos, also very informative. And he's also working on a new show about screenwriting scripts that's going to be on Saturdays. But I think you're still sort of, is that still being developed?
A lot of the assets have already been established, and I've been interviewing potential co-hosts all week. And so, yeah, the first episode is scheduled for the first Saturday of January. at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where me and my co-host will have read a screenplay that is currently being circulated around Hollywood for sale. And we're going to talk about it without giving away too many spoilers so that it doesn't impede the interest, of course. But we're going to talk about it, share our thoughts, choose whether we would want to back it or not, so to speak. And it looks like it's going to be a fun and exciting show in the future. And so I'm happy to talk a little bit about that here, but I'm really a lot more excited about talking about Quantum Leap right now.
I'm excited as well, and we're going to get right to it. Let me find this Mr. Technical. Let me share the screen. Okay, so we're going to get into it now. The episode starts off. You can see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's working. So it's not the opening most people know. It's still this other one with this kind of very simple title.
I actually can't wait to see what open you guys are talking about, because for someone that has never seen the show up until us discussing it, I want to see how different the open that you guys are used to is.
I like the one that they ended up using frequently. I like that one. I feel like this one is interesting, but that one I like more.
Yeah.
When does it change?
Season 2, I believe it starts to change. Then I think season 3 is when they introduced Deborah Pratt's voiceover.
Yeah.
There's also a few different Deborah Pratts. There's one longer one that she talks more, and then they kind of figured, no, we're gonna downsize that. So there's a few different Deborah Pratt versions, which is also interesting. But there's this one that they settled on at the end. That one kind of sticks with you throughout most of the series, or a lot of it, and that's the one I always remember.
Yeah, they get rid of Sam recapping, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
they get rid of Sam recapping in the teaser, so to speak.
Oh,
but
no
they
more
also
caca.
no more caca.
No more caca, no.
But they also do like a more orchestral theme song as the show progresses. They punch it up a little bit, I think, towards the final seasons, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, they also tried to introduce this like rather annoying version of it in the final season, where they tried to make it kind of this upbeat with these. It sounds very kind of 90s drums. I don't know.
Yeah.
They try to do something I think that the studio in the 5th season had a lot of demands, and they told him, if you want to continue this show, here's a shopping list of what you need to do. And I think that he did it, but I don't think he was ever excited about all these changes. And
they added extra horns, I think, in one version of the theme song, right? And
that's possible.
I'm picturing like Baywatch drums or something.
Right, but the one in the 5th season is completely a different take. I mean, it's a re-recorded song that they just completely redid. It sort of sounds like the original one, but it has this. It sounds like MC Hammer is going to start dancing with his pants.
It also sounds like a marching band's take on it.
Yes, I agree. So let's go back to the thing. Yeah, he wakes up in this leap. There's a lady. They just participated in some type of activity together. And now he's kind of looking in the mirror, and he sees this guy, Frankie, and he's kind of happy.
He's very happy.
Well, after that activity.
Well, he only arrived at the end of it, so I don't even know if he, if he got to.
Well, yeah, Frankie was gone while Sam was coming in.
He also is coming off looking like a nerd from the last one with the doc vet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure he's happy. He's doing like finger guns in the mirror and stuff.
Yeah, he seems happy. So then we have guest starring Terri Garber. The thing is, Terri Garber, it sounds like a name I know, but I looked at this actress and I was trying to think what else I'd seen her in, and I couldn't really remember.
It sounds like Terri Gar.
Maybe that's why. That's
confusion.
why. So it's her wedding. This is a very kind of Godfather style, trying to recreate a Godfather vibe. I believe this is the brother of Frankie, the one that we see here.
I think it's the older one. Like I think it's Primo. Yeah.
Yeah, and Primo, I believe, is played by Nick Cassavetes, the son of John Cassavetes. I think that's him.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's him. You see kind of some stuff happening here in the wedding. I watched this like a few weeks ago. I'm trying to remember what these older ladies were saying. Somebody remembers what they were talking about here?
Well, they weren't talking in English.
Yeah, it was a lot of Italian.
Yeah, there was no subtitles on these particular scenes, but no, they were complaining about the food and quality and kind of in their own way, giving a little nudge of disapproval to Teresa.
I see.
And Teresa seems to be like making her rounds around the wedding in various ways. A lot of personality in that character.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and this is kind of the big boss, the
Gino.
Yes, so he's the boss, Gino, and then this is the father of the two sons. He's Frankie's father, I believe, and the other guy's father,
Yeah.
right?
It's the father of the three sons, so he has three kids.
Right, there's a younger one too.
Yeah, it's
Tony La Palma.
Primo, Tony. Yeah, Primo and Tony. Yeah.
So Teresa shows up and interferes in the middle of this thing here, and somehow it causes Gino to lose money, and this guy to win money. It kind of annoys him. But in addition, he just doesn't like that, there's obviously some tension between Teresa and him, and then they go into a separate room, and turns out that she's kind of was his Gumar, or whatever you want to call it. She was
Squeeze.
his mistress, whatever, and he's kind of fishing around to see what she's up to, who she's with, or whatever, because but she's like, no, I couldn't be with anyone because of our history, and he's kind of putting her in her place, and she's showing a little bit of attitude, so he kind of grabs her, and he makes her understand that he's the boss, and she's not happy.
I mean, in that previous scene, she really kind of humiliated him, because it was a situation where, they're playing some type of game,
Bocce ball,
and he lost, but nobody there would admit that he lost because he's the boss. And so she calls it out, says, hey, he won, you owe him. But all these guys are too afraid to say anything. And so she's got a lot of guts, all things given. And he's kind of like, why are you here?
Yeah, he's not happy with this. So next we have it really just shows that she's kind of
Sassy.
yeah, she's sassy. That's a good word to describe her. Then these older ladies, I'm trying to remember what they complained to him about.
they're just talking in Italian, and he can't understand.
He can't understand them, right?
He can't understand them, but they think they think he can, because his character that he's inhabited is fluent in Italian, but the other two brothers are not.
Yeah,
Right. So then this is the brother, the bride, the younger brother, and I think this is the part where they tell him, "Oh, you got to sing," and he doesn't quite know what to do, because he doesn't know the song they want or what they want to do. He walks on the stage, and Al shows up at an interesting time, and he tells him, "Listen, you can sing. You'll be fine here. Just."
I love how Al is feeding him the lines, and how that whole scene progresses. It's pretty funny.
The only thing I'll say is, I mean, unless it was established that he could remember or he actually knew that song, it's kind of, he wouldn't have really known how to sing exactly those lines. It's super convenient. I mean, again, things happen sometimes that are convenient on this show, but relatively speaking, this is more convenient than usual, unless they would have established that he kind of remembered this song.
Or, I mean, they later established in the show that he has a photographic memory. And,
yes.
And basically all he has to do is listen to him once. I like how the fact that it doesn't work when he's being told to speak another language later on, because he can't remember the words that when Al goes that fast, but that's getting a little ahead of ourselves here.
I was
Right.
like,
Yeah.
this scene is so embarrassing, but then he starts gaining confidence, and I'm like, oh my god, it's so much worse when he's actually into it.
I mean, the thing is that Scott Bakula can actually sing. I think that they kind of wanted him to seem a bit goofy here when he sings this.
Mhm.
Like, I think
Well,
he
I
could
mean,
have. Sorry,
the fact
go
that
on.
he's doing in another language, like, I mean, that's some talent there, is that he's accomplishing that. And it does seem a little quick and a little hokey. I think if I was in that situation, I would have just faked that I was drunk.
I mean, they're kind of capitalizing like they do, and I think people have mentioned this here before. I think Script mentions it, that they really often, if they can somehow slip in that he can sing something, they like to do that, because Scott Bakula came from musical theater and Broadway, so they can let him sing or do something more along those lines. They try to incorporate that. It's nice. I feel like it's a bit over the top, but I didn't mind it. I guess it's kind of silly, but I don't mind it.
Well, they sing it once and it's awkward, and then it just repeats again. I don't know if that's exactly how it's supposed to go, but it worked for me for the scene to get him through it.
It does whatever it's supposed to do. Then you have here, this is interesting because this guy on the right is actually from Breaking Bad. It's Mark Margolis, the guy in the wheelchair. It's Hector Salamanca.
Yep.
Margolis is so typecast. He plays the same role whenever we see him.
Right.
Yep.
And
The landlord in Ace Ventura.
Oh yeah, that's why I know him.
right. He was in Scarface. He was the guy that wanted to blow up the embassy guy and his family, and then Scarface gets upset.
There's there's a handful of people in this episode that have been in a lot. Like Tony La Palma, the dad, is Joe Santos. He was on like Rockford Files and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
And then Gino, Mike Genovese. I've seen him for years.
All seem very familiar. It seemed like a very familiar cast. I agree with you.
Oh yeah, they're all character actors.
Yeah.
Heck, Genovese was in the Flash television series as one of the cops.
Hmm.
And then you have Al here. This is interesting. The fact that Al, sort of, the air conditioning in the chamber isn't working, and he's really hot, whereas he's in a different climate and Sam's in a different climate. I thought that was rather interesting.
Do you think that this is the most sensibly dressed Al has ever been in the show so far?
Yeah,
Probably.
Probably.
I mean, he's still trying to be flashy, which I like.
Yeah.
But it's sort of a regular Hawaiian shirt, and there isn't. Sometimes in his other stuff, there's like a strange jacket.
Or like a weird cut.
Mhm.
Which
the-
hand link is this? This is, I think, the second one.
Yeah, I think so.
Technically, well, it's still the clear one, so it's not the full kind of gold that he had.
Right.
What were you gonna say, Nick?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I love how, it's hot in there, and somehow he, like, did he go home? He dressed for the heat, so it's like, does he just have a Hawaiian shirt at the office?
They're like in his trunk.
Well, I mean, if he's in technically Nevada, right? That's where the location is. So if there's a heat wave going on, maybe he dressed for that, and then when he got into the QL offices, he's like, "Where's the air conditioning?"
So then we have.
Oh yeah, they also said that Ziggy turned off all the non-essential systems because he's trying to pinpoint Sam or whatever.
He's got a plan to bring him back.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So at this point, we have a mystery for the entire episode, which is, what is Sam there to do?
Yeah.
And
they're not sure, right?
Yeah, because Ziggy hasn't bothered figuring it out because he's like, I think I can save Sam.
Yeah. I love Ziggy. Specifically, it like clicked in my brain. Sorry, not to interrupt anything, but
No, you're on top.
they mentioned that Ziggy has an ego, so he's like dead set about bringing Sam back through time. So he turns off all the conveniences to everyone else around him. I just like that off screen they've managed to build up this egotistical computer character that I haven't seen, but I have a clear idea of what his personality is just from little mentions of him.
Yeah, I like that too. That there's a lot of mystery around Ziggy. I'm trying to remember. So here, they don't really know. I know there was a heat problem. They don't really know why he's here or how to. And this is the part where he figures he has a gun and he understands that he's sort of a hitman or whatever he is.
Yeah, Al tells him, I believe.
I always, whenever there's shots like this, I mean, it reminds me of Seinfeld, but whenever there's shots like this, I always try to figure out which studio they shot it in. And you guys earlier were talking about how you guys feel like this episode is a little odd, and I'm sure we'll get to it, but I was reading a little bit of this episode. This episode was the second episode that they shot, and it was pushed back later on in the season. And I was reading that some people were saying that the reason it might be a little different is because they were still trying to figure out, you know, their MO when it comes to the jumping and the story.
Yes.
So that'll be interesting to, you know, once we get really into talking about why some of you guys felt that it was a little odd. Maybe that might be the reason. I don't know. It's interesting.
That makes a lot of sense as to why, like, all of a sudden Ziggy's become like concentrating on getting him back, because if this was the second episode, you
Still
could see
trying to
that
figure
as being
stuff
a
out.
much
Early.
more thing, whereas it's like, well, why wasn't he that concerned the last couple of episodes, you know? So
Yeah.
that kind of makes sense.
And then you have this scene kind of, they're walking on the street and they walk by this barber shop, and that's where Teresa works, and he's going to go in there. This part is kind of weird, but whatever. He walks in and he's like, I'll get a haircut here. He doesn't fully understand the whole situation that she used to be with Gino, and now he's with her. So he doesn't have all the information, and he's making a mistake here by even coming here, because that means that Publicly's hanging out with her.
Right.
Maybe they're involved. Meanwhile, Gino arrives and he's unhappy with what he's seeing, and the father starts giving him a bunch of nonsense, lying and stuff, and telling him no, he's going in. He was trying to see if who's the person or something like that. They tried to fool Gino to make it seem like there's a legitimate reason why he went in there.
They want her to slip up and give information.
Right.
Tell them who she's messing around with.
Right, as if they're helping Gino, which, you know, obviously they're not, but the father understands the problem that's going on here. And then Gino shows up, and I think that Sam is just sort of beginning to understand the whole situation that he's in. And I think that Gino says, listen, if it turns out that what you're saying is true, then he'll tell me. What is it that he says? He has to say something, Sam, for him to be convinced that it's really...
That it was the dad's idea to come in here to get information from her to see what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
So then he kind of starts threatening him, and then Al shows up, and he's speaking Italian, so Al is basically telling him what to say in Italian to answer him.
This has one of my favorite lines when Gino tells Teresa, "Areza, Teresa."
Yeah, there's no difference in elocution.
So basically, the plan works between Al and Sam, kind of gaining an understanding of what he's gotten himself into. He manages to weasel his way out.
Hey,
again,
how funny would it have been if Margolis, the actor, played the dad who was also in the wheelchair from the character in Breaking Bad?
That would have been interesting, actually. So the father is here, and maybe he's kind of telling Frankie, "Hey, don't do this stuff. What are you doing?" He's kind of putting him in his place. Same with this.
It's funny how the other two brothers are just childish and like playful behind them, and as they're walking, they're kind of like slapping each other and just being like kids,
Right?
Almost.
They kind of are presented as kind of dum-dums.
Right.
I will say, I don't know what studio you were saying, Ro, what studio this is at. I don't know what studio it's at, but I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
If it's not the CBS lot, it's one of the Warner Brothers lots, because that marquee and that framing is what it was used, oddly enough, in the Lois and Clark series, which I think was it was CBS produced, but it was shot by, it was produced by Warner Brothers, but it was shot by CBS, so it might be the CBS lot before they revamped it to look like Metropolis, because it does have those old facades, and it does have that marquee, and I think the diner probably is what was torn down and made into the Daily Planet that we saw.
Right.
Oh, Vex Electronica. Hey, Vex, how's it going?
Rewatch of that.
There's a IMDb has a mess up in the, speaking of the marquee, they have the movie Dr. Zhivago, which was released in December, and these guys are doing this in November.
Yep.
Kind of funny.
So it's
I have to
they're
ask,
off by 30 days.
Vex, do you like classic Quantum Leap?
If so, you've come to the right place.
This is the right place.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
Vex
think we're the only 4 people on the internet that have seen the classic
the classic Quantum Leap. That's probably
Quantum
true.
Leap.
But I'll tell you again that I've noticed that every time we post a video over the week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it's the kind of video that gradually people that do search for it are looking for this type of content. So
Cool. Yeah.
it's sort of, we have our own kind of niche that we do this, but it's something that people are looking for.
Excellent.
Back Yard Tardis. Hello, Price is becoming a nonstop streaming 3 days in a row.
Yeah. What I really like about this
content.
point here is how Al finally tells Sam what he has to do, which is basically plug in a 100-watt hair dryer to a house in upstate Buffalo, essentially, and then be back in the attic and within like a 15-minute time window. And Sam's like, well, I guess I can get the 2 brothers to do that. And Al tries to doubt him. He's like, well, I'm putting as much faith in them as I have to put in you and Ziggy. So what's the difference, really?
Yeah, and then he does that. He sends them to upstate. Meanwhile, he calls Teresa and he's like, we got to meet in this place. He needs her to meet
in the attic.
In the attic.
in the
Yeah.
attic. And she seems very
under the same circumstances as when he first arrived.
Yeah.
and she seems very pleased with his proposal.
Yes.
So then they're here. Meanwhile, Gino, he probably knows that they're together or something like that. So
Yeah. He's going to head up to the attic to take care of business.
right,
Yep.
and then you have the 2 brothers go there. You know, again, this whole thing with the hair dryer, it's okay. It's just like I said, a lot of stuff happens in this episode, which is, I feel like some other episodes of this show, many of those others are more well thought out. But it's okay, I guess. And then he hooks up to the thing.
This blackout on the East Coast, wasn't that a real thing?
Yes, it was.
Back
It
in the
actually
day?
occurred. It was actually really occurred in Southern Ontario, not in Buffalo. But it knocked out 2 provinces and I think 8 or 9 states.
See,
For
this is what
24 hours?
this is what happened.
Yeah, I think they mentioned that they were losing parts of Canada whenever the blackout happens.
Yeah, because it's connected to the whole grid was connected to the Niagara Falls energy power plant. That's between New York and Ontario, and everything. All the other grids connected to that were overloaded, trying to compensate for that one being overloaded.
Do they actually give a reason as to why he needs to cause the power out, because like it didn't seem like it was part of the plan. That was like I was a little confused.
You know,
I think when the boss gets to them, he's about to shoot him, and then the lights go off, and then that's like the big distraction. So it was a really big convoluted way to distract him and get the gun away, and then I don't know.
very
I think
weird.
the energy surge was supposed to be something that Ziggy used to pull Sam back, but because the guy touched him, that causes their bodies to swap instead of bringing him, pulling him
right.
out.
They were trying to bring him home. You're right.
Yeah.
This was still in the early episodes that they're like, we're trying to bring you home. Like, I think later nobody even mentions that. He leaps from place to place. These are the early ones that I guess a little more effort was made to show that they're trying to bring him back. So they thought that that would work. But
sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go on.
I totally thought it was like Ziggy's cheat code, you got to plug in a hairdryer here, you got to say the secret words, you got to be in this location. I thought it was hilarious, actually, that it caused a blackout and stuff. But yeah, the script's idea that them touching swap the places, I didn't consider that. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah.
This is those people at the electric, whatever the center was. I don't know where the grid is.
One of the power plants, yeah.
Yeah. And then they're trying to fix the situation. Meanwhile, Sam is passing the time with Teresa. And then there's the outage. And of course, Gino is here. And then there's a struggle. And this is the part that you usually don't see on Quantum Leap, that he leaps. And he leaps into Gino.
Oh.
Yep. And Frankie comes back to his body, and Gino's in the waiting room.
Right. And Frankie, because he got hit, she tells him, well, you got a concussion. You don't even know what's going on. And then now, because Sam is Gino, he basically says, oh, I forgive you. You guys can be together. It's great. And knowing that this could be a problem once he leaps out, he actually goes and makes an effort that the priest and the local ladies and the bingo team and whatever, he tells everybody that he endorses this wedding and it's the best thing that ever happened, and he's so thrilled. I still think the real Gino could return and want to kill everybody, but what do I know?
You know how
all those grandmas there, they're not going to let him do it.
Yeah,
I
like
guess.
a public statement.
You know how I justified the double leap? I thought that that Sam needed to jump into what's his name first? What's his name? Frankie. To be able to learn about him and know that he's an assassin. Yeah, when we first meet him, but he is. I guess he wants to give that all up, and he's true to his word. And he wants to be with Teresa. And in order for him to know that Frankie was on the up and up, he needed to be Frankie. And now that he was Frankie and realizes that, he doesn't want to do that anymore, he wants to spend his life with Teresa, then he moves over and swaps with Don.
Gino. Yeah, Gino.
And Gino. And take care of being able to put these two together in the right way without causing any harm to either of them. Because obviously, before he does that double leap, Gino wanted to kill them both.
Right. I mean, this works. This does resolve everything, but it's just I rarely see this on this series, that things resolve themselves the way they did here, and also. Between the hairdryer, them singing at the wedding, and all these different ideas, I feel like I've seen episodes that were written in a more elaborate or
cohesive, actually.
Yes, cohesive. I feel like this probably wouldn't be my favorite script out of all of the Quantum Leap episodes, but it's interesting because I like this part that Al now it's the opposite. Now it's too cold, so he's wearing this kind of Russian looks like but he still has but he still has the weird that red thing. He still looks weird even with this thing. And then I guess finally his final thing is he does a bingo, and at this point he leaps.
Yeah, because Frankie was supposed to escort her to the bingo hall and threaten the priest to let her win because she hasn't won in like a year or two or something.
Yeah.
Right. And then he leaps, and he's this is the
Black-
episode, the color of truth, and he's a black man in the South.
This
If
one's going to be interesting.
Yes, and I actually think that this is quite a contrast in a way, because if this episode that we're watching, the double identity one, I thought was, I don't know if to say flimsy, but it was kind of scattered. I really feel that actually the color of truth is an episode that they did start finding their footing.
Yeah.
I feel like that's an episode that's kind of well thought out, and I don't know how to explain it, and we'll get to it next time whenever we do our next stream, that I feel like this episode, The Color of Truth, really does show the possibilities of the show, and takes itself seriously in a way that none of the episodes before until now really took themselves. Not that they always need to be so serious, but I do think that this was sort of a leap forward, if you want to call it, no pun intended, this Color of Truth episode.
Yeah, I can totally see that. And I think, to be able to start with an episode as strong as this one at the beginning might have turned some people off. I think the earlier episodes were a little more fun, adventurous, and quizzical, in order for them to kind of ease into that. And I think, most shows, I guess, kind of do that, because I think, doesn't he later on, he jumps into a female body and an Asian body, and they start to do, what all good science fiction does, and examine our own society through the lens of these stories. So cool.
Anybody?
Yeah, I think
Sorry.
really, I liked this episode. I mean, not all of it flowed perfect, but it was a very enjoyable episode. It did feel very off from the formula of the show, but that wasn't necessarily that it was a bad thing. And I definitely, I don't think this would have been a good, second story, after the pilot. Maybe third story.
Maybe
But,
that's why. Maybe they thought the same thing, and that's why they moved it ahead a little bit. Yeah.
Because I do think that like, and I think it would also they did something like this in the first season of Stargate, and I remember listening to an interview with the directors, and they said they moved something around because they realized it was going to give the wrong impression that this was going to be happening every week. And so if this had been at the beginning and they felt like that was setting the rules and the standards of how leaps go, where he's going to be leaping around the room. But the idea of that was the plan to get him back, and then the touching, and that's what caused the transfer. That wasn't telegraphed that well. If that was the plot, I mean, it makes sense now that it's been brought up, but I'm also thinking about the moral quandary. Had that not happened, then he would have leapt home, and they would have been murdered.
Yeah.
This is also before we get to we get a little taste of it, but this is also before we get to the part of the show where Al tells Sam what happens to the person who he leapt into after he leaps beforehand, so that you get a resolution as to what their story is, and it's less of a cliffhanger of sorts.
Yeah, because he's like, Gino dies in April. Like, what?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I thought that this episode started feeling a little selfish. I actually like that that they put it. What is this, episode 5? I like that it felt different, but as they were going along, and all they were concerned about was leaping out and going back home, it felt a little weird to me. And I, like, in a good way, story way. And I was like, they seem to be at odds with the creator pulling him through time and stuff like that. So I'm glad that it worked its way out. I still, you guys notice things that I don't, and like even them switching places, like they both glowed blue. I completely missed that, and I don't know if I'm just a dummy, but again, I like to think that some of the scenarios that he leaps into, all he has to do is one dumb little thing, and that was him helping the old woman win the lottery or the bingo, and that would have been it. He could have gone home. Didn't have to like build up the scenario more than what it was or any of that. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. I also, when I think about it, there's only one other episode that I can think of that within that actually, the pilot episode, this episode, and one other episode that happens in the 5th season is the only ones I can think of that he leaps from one person to another within the same episode.
Yeah, this one and another one I think in the 4th season, right? Between him and Al.
Yes, there's okay, but that's a different. You're right.
Different circumstance of
It's sort of different circumstances. Something that there's a switcheroo like this. Actually, this type of switcheroo I can only think of, and it's not a spoiler, but something that happens with that Lee Harvey Oswald episode. There's a weird something that reminiscent of this. There's a few other anomalies that involve Al and switching with Al that I can actually think of 2 episodes, but none of that is this thing and that Lee Harvey one are the only ones that I can remember where he's kind of one person, then he's another person in the same scene. So it's something that they were toying with, and it's not something that they kept revisiting. And I'm kind of happy they didn't revisit it because it's okay if you use it sparingly, but I don't necessarily need to see it every second.
Sure.
So I have a question. As someone who watched this all when I was younger and can't recall a lot of the later seasons, does the issue of him not being able to speak a language come up later?
It's a good question.
Because they set a precedent here, and this is sometimes the writers make a mistake in a first season that they either have to later ignore or it boxes them in later, because that right there means he can't suddenly be over in France or Italy, or, it's limiting the story potential, because then they'd have to deal with the language thing, versus if he just naturally spoke whatever language that person spoke.
Well, he doesn't really
them open.
He doesn't really leap outside the U.S. except for that one, I think, with the vampires or whatever that was. There's, I think, one episode that for some reason I think he's in London. But aside from that, generally he's in the U.S. It's within his lifetime, and he's in the U.S. I don't remember if they ever explained why he's in the U.S., but I mean, it's obvious that if you want to do this show, then exactly for the reasons you said, Nick, he's not going to arrive suddenly in South America speaking Spanish to some people in a village, because that would be weird, I guess.
He could always blame it on his Swiss cheese brain, too. Like, I can speak Italian, I just forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where if they made it so that, that everybody's speaking English, and that was the question, is like, well, no, you're all speaking this. It just comes out as this or something like that because you're in this person's body. It would leave open for them if in later years, if they wanted to, when the budget allowed, do this is the big episode in Paris, or, but it's just decisions like this. It's interesting how something little like this can set rules that can affect for the rest of the show.
I see what you're saying.
I think that, relatively speaking, a lot of the ground rules that they use later, they came up with it early on. There are certain things that I think that they've sort of added. I mean, I don't think it's bad. It's not a spoiler that I'll say that over time, I think he's a little more action-orientated when it comes to... There's something that he can fight, which it's sort of explained that he can fight and nobody really questions. Script, do you know what I'm talking about? At some point they're like, oh, don't you know Kung Fu or something? I don't know what. I don't know if it's Kung Fu. There's something that he suddenly knows, and they're just like, yeah, whatever. He knows that. And they didn't really explain that in the early episodes, and I feel like somebody just said whatever.
Yeah. Well, the thing is like with his when he leaps into a body, some of the reflex nature that the body has, he has access to. They established that, and then they kind of retcon that again. I think in the 5th season, when he plays a guy that has his legs amputated.
Yes, that one is weird. I
don't get how that one worked. That really stuck out to me as a
right. I was never pleased with what they did there. I actually would have preferred that they didn't do that. But
same.
They stick to their rules for the most part. I think also back in the day on a show like this, it's not like everybody had all the DVD sets or they didn't have Netflix or anything to stream all day and all night all these episodes. They just figured, who's going to remember what we said in the first season? So now we can do this.
Yeah, probably.
People were more forgiving then.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you guys feel like fans or watchers of these shows were so deep into the mechanics of those explanations as much as we are now with social media, and we pick apart every frame of every trailer of every movie and stuff like that and say, wait a minute, this didn't make sense because that guy said this like 3 years ago. I don't think it was like that back when this show was out.
Probably not at episode 5.
No, not at episode 5. Not with appointment television, where, I mean, on average, you have a 50% gap in viewership because of people's schedules. So not everybody can always catch every episode. So only the diehard fans that would schedule their lives around the show and took notes and paid attention would start picking up contradictions, but they wouldn't really have anyone else to air them out to,
right?
Unless it was like a water cooler show at the office. Or they somehow found a very early message board in the proto-public internet days that discussed
CompuServe.
Right.
CompuServe, yeah.
I actually, I'm sorry, I'm dating myself. I actually did go on CompuServe and talk to people about Quantum Leap for whatever that's worth.
Well, thinking about the time, because this is when you think of like what was coming out sci-fi before this show, a lot of shows like their first and second season were nothing alike. Like Space 1999, Buck Roger, Battlestar Galactica, like all of these like the shows completely changed between. But I think that real attention to detail came around with the Next Generation, because you had all these Star Trek fans that have just been obsessing about these 3 seasons of Star Trek and like learning the Klingon language and all this stuff. And then TNG comes out, and anytime something didn't match up on TNG with a previous episode, they were just getting dumped with fan mail because these people had already become so absorbed in the fandom of that show. Whereas this is something new, so there's not that built-in fandom that's micro-analyzing this.
That's a good point.
That fandom is existing now and currently commenting on the new Quantum Leap,
which is awful.
Right.
The new one is awful. Oh, Forgotten MMA. Sorry, I'm late, gang.
James.
It's okay.
No worries.
No worries, man. And it's posted here. Obviously, you can watch it from the start afterwards. You're gonna have to rewatch this one later. Sure. I also know people are getting ready for the holidays. But like I said, I know that every week I see that people watch these also after the fact. We don't talk stories of the day or all these politics and stuff. So us enjoying an episode of Quantum Leap, that's good for anybody, anytime. And regarding this show, I think that, relatively speaking, considering that they were in a different era, for the most part, most of the time they do stick to their rules. Here and there, yeah, they kind of did some retconning, they changed some stuff, but I do feel that there's a relatively good consistency as far as their rules and how they told the story of this show.
Yeah.
More than a lot of other stuff. And Nick, you were saying that first season was one way and then second season was another way. I do think that the second season, they really sort of they started becoming more focused on how they want to tell this story. But even when I watched the first season, I don't think it's a disaster. I think that they're finding their footing in a very interesting way that I'm still enjoying. It's just I really feel that once the second season starts, that you could tell that they really understand the exact direction they want to go in.
Well, and that's typical of most shows because, you know, when you're doing this, like the crew and the cast and everybody's getting to know each other, it's a mad dash to get all this out on time. And, you know, a lot of big decisions for the show are getting made now and in the clinch. But, you know, despite we've had, you know, a couple episodes we said, well, this is kind of a little different, or but nothing's been bad.
No,
we have not had a bad episode.
No,
nothing has been. There's a big difference between, you know, if this was something like, say, for instance, you know, like I rewatch a lot of Star Trek and stuff like that. You're rewatching The Next Generation, and sometimes there's an episode that you're like, that was an okay episode, but I don't want to watch it. You know, there are episodes like that here, but there's no, I mean, you stack, although it's not as many episodes, but like if you were to compare this to, let's take that Star Trek's first season. There are some awful episodes in the first season of TNG, and that's not here. These have all been good.
right. I mean, you could tell that they still can fine tune what they're doing, but it doesn't come from a place of them completely messing up. It's just a matter of I feel like this is a sign of a good showrunner. I mean, I think that Donald Belisario did a good job here, probably examining what was going on in these early episodes, figuring out what worked better, what maybe he could have used more, he could have fine-tuned. And I really feel like he improves from episode to episode. And for me, even this Color of Truth episode, I really feel is sort of a milestone to show what the show can do. And I think that once season 2 starts, I really feel like it starts finding it. And this season was only like 8 episodes or something. So season 2 is soon. And they already, in my opinion, find their footing there.
Yep.
So it didn't take them long. I'm giving them a compliment. I think that it's like what everybody, and like what Nick said, it's fun to watch these. Even these kind of finding footing episodes are good. And I feel like they just continue to improve and they find a way to even do it in a better way. Shows can only hope to have this kind of thing going on. Most shows don't.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say this show, Don Belisario really understood the mechanics of what he wanted to do with this show. But I think he soon realized that you can't keep on having every episode about Sam and the team back home trying to pull him back. And what he ended up, I think, realizing is that the show was more about complete the leap as best you can and hope that once that leap is done, it will bring you back. And so it kind of left it to be open-ended to the point where you just can't keep on repeating the same gimmick over and over of like, okay, it's gonna fail because the show has to keep going. So how many ideas can they come up with or crazy things that they can get Sam to do that have to fail before it starts to get really tired? And I think they're very smart to realize that right away, as opposed to how other shows would have just kind of had it go on episode after episode until audiences started tuning out because it'd become like a cliche gimmick at that point.
Right. They just figured he's going from place to place. He's leaping. He's an action adventure hero, basically. He's going from place to place. He has a mission. He has to complete it. And you hope that the next, like you said, and that's also how that intro eventually, he hopes that the next leap will be the leap home.
Right.
They really found the best formula, or whatever you want to call it.
Just looking at this first season and the episodes, they really go out of their way to hit a lot of the general stereotypes. We had the kind of like military one. We've had where it was kind of like his romance and out of college. The one there that was kind of like the down on his luck boxer with the nuns, and and then we did kind of like a Western one. Now we've got this, which is a mobster, and then next he's going to be dealing with kind of a bit of Black history, and then he's going to go to a high school, and he's going to they really go through the gamut of like kind of just basic stereotypes, and that's good that they have so many in this first season, because you never know which one of those episodes is going to be the genre that somebody's into. So that somebody who's not even into sci-fi, maybe they're into Western shows, and that might just be the episode that the commercial caught their attention, and they started watching from that, and then they get invested in the show.
You're right. It was definitely a show that had to find its audience, and I think that it did. The people that really liked this show really liked it. They've built a really nice fan base.
Yeah, sorry, I have nothing. I can't really add anything more to that. You nailed that point. I very much agree.
Yeah, so I guess, I don't know, I think this episode we've had kind of less to say about it, because it kind of was just there, but it was pleasant and fun, but it didn't leave me like thinking about a million things. I like what some people here, and Sean, I think you were saying that there's kind of, it's a bit selfish. It's focusing on Sam trying to get back, Sam trying to do this. Moving forward, there's less of that, and that also ties with what Script was saying, that they kind of dropped the hairdryer gimmicks and all these weird things, and it's still nice to see, just as a guy that likes writing and television and things like that, just to see where they were out and how they developed and how they went from A to B. I kind of like it, and overall, like also Nick said, it's fun to watch. These are fun episodes, and I'm looking forward to the next one. I don't know now, that next week there's holidays and stuff, so we'll have to talk to see when we'll do the next stream. But and I know already now a lot of people are sort of focused on the holidays. People that did show up, whether here on Rumble, here on YouTube, or on Rumble, thank you. And of course, a lot of people I think are also going to be watching this later, which is also cool. If you are, make sure to like and drop some comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm just going to go quickly. Sean, is there anything that you have going on that you want to sort of plug or something?
I just did a new video a couple hours ago that is on the channel now, drawing video.
That's
And
awesome.
Nice.
Usually I stream on Sundays with my friend. We talk about pop culture stuff. I draw. We talk about monsters. Whatever. It's just a hangout. And then other than that, I got the sticker shop. I got the real Sean Krummel art.etsy.com. And then I got the YouTube, which I already mentioned.
Cool. Ro, do you have anything going on?
No, just our weekly episodes. I just dropped an episode today. We talked about Star Wars Visions Season 2, the entire run. And last night I recorded my last show of the year with Scott Rifen. We did a session of 5 questions. We pick out 5 questions and we ask each other off the cuff. And these are kind of deep nerd questions. Things like what would George Lucas's sequel trilogy look like, and questions like that. So yeah, if you like diving deep into the geekdom, follow us here on the Scarif Podcast.
Cool. Before I go on, Ron Donofero Did I miss the boat? High price. So, of course, you can still rewatch it, and I'm sure you'll still enjoy it. And we're happy you stopped by. Like I said, I know a lot of people are busy this time of year, but we appreciate you guys. Script, do you have anything you want to plug?
Yeah, other than just follow me over on the Twitter X there. Find my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Script Doctor. I dropped a fun video about the real superhero fatigue and its source. And this Saturday, I'm going to be doing a kind of like a Q&A update show, prepping for the January show that's starting. So swing on by, ask some questions, hang out. It'll be a lot of fun.
Looking forward to it, to the January show. That sounds cool.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, anything you want to plug?
You're
I can't-
muted.
You're muted. Does he realize he's muted?
Yeah, he's looking for the button.
Is he looking for the button?
Yeah, Control D.
Nick, you're muted.
He's on a tablet.
Oh, that's even harder.
Yeah, yeah.
I think Nick may be having technical difficulties. I assume that he wanted to tell you about his
Adventures in Locksmithing.
Adventures in Locksmithing channel. It's a YouTube channel where he talks about his adventures, kind of gives live reports from the field. In addition, he has... Oh, you're there?
Am I back? My computer froze.
Oh, okay,
was
no
like,
problem.
I noticed it like moments before. I'm like, oh shoot, I'm next. I can't.
Ron Donofero
so-
said you use sign language, Nick, but he's back.
Yeah, well, my image wasn't moving. Nobody's was. So I was like, oh, okay. So, yeah, so I've been on a bit of a break, but, been sick and stuff. But yeah, next week I'm coming back. And one of the things that I'm hopefully dropping next week on my Adventures in Locksmithing is going to be just a little bit of a bit of mixing with the nerdy and kind of examining some locksmithing scenes. Luke blasting the door controls to lock it. Like, would that work? Is that how locks work? kind of stuff. Just to have a little fun with that. So hopefully having that upcoming here shortly.
Excellent. If you lock a lock in the forest, is it actually locked? I don't know.
Yeah,
getting existential on you, Nick.
And of course, Nick has his Back Yard Tardis channel also. So that's stuff that you do, more of the geeky stuff. And so you have the Adventures in Locksmithing for the locksmithing stuff, and the Back Yard Tardis for the more geeky stuff. Very cool. I enjoy them. Ron Donofero, what are you saying? I was in the Boy Scouts with Pat Hamill, Mark's youngest brother. Interesting.
Oh man, Mark is like got 7 siblings, I think, or more. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
Just quick question for Script. I know you said you were doing scripts that are getting passed around like during COVID and stuff, seeing if they're getting picked up now. Have you seen the one for Sentinels?
I don't think
starring
so.
Chris Judge.
Let me do a quick check here. If I have it in my database, I got a big repository here of screenplays. Let's see, Sentinels. That one hasn't quite leaked into my area yet, but I'll keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, it was a pilot that was set to go right before COVID. And they sent a new sci-fi kind of think of just like space travel, but just our solar system.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea that for every planet that people moved on, they had to mutate the DNA. And so everybody's got like from different planets have like their own superpowers.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I
but
gotta
then
find that.
there's kind of like an alien bug monster infestation that's killing them off, and it's an interesting thing. But what they did is because it was all set to go, it was about to go into production and being made, and then it was put on hold and kind of canned. So they made an audio drama out of the pilot episodes.
Cool.
Interesting.
I have. Let's see here. I'm just checking a friend's database. I have something from like a pilot was written back in 2017, and took years to get developed, but it hasn't been fully released. At least not in my circle of screenwriting friends and colleagues. So that's cool. I'll be on the lookout for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, in any case, thanks everybody for being here. We have to see what's going on with the holidays, but obviously anybody that's celebrating a holiday now, we wish you a happy holiday, and we'll post more. I'll post on different social media and on this channel and my other channel what we're going to do with the next stream. Thanks everybody for being here. It's great. It's great to be here. It's great doing this. Really, really enjoy hanging out with these guys and with all of you, both here on YouTube and Rumble. And we'll see you soon. I'll just find that outro that we have.
I'm ready.
Okay, Ro, are you ready for the outro?
Absolutely.
I think this is it.
I'm such an awesome